All right, today we're going to dig into the story of a company that, almost by accident, built an unlikely empire and became one of the most dominant forces in e-commerce. This is the story of Shopify.
So, let me ask you a question. What could a revolutionary car company, a global energy drink giant, and say a local candle maker possibly have in common? I mean, on the surface it seems like absolutely nothing, right? But they all share a secret weapon.
Yup, the answer is Shopify. Every one of them uses its powerful e-commerce engine to sell their products online. Shopify has become this invisible backbone for millions of businesses, from tiny startups all the way up to global empires. But the company's origins were anything but grand.
To really understand Shopify, we gotta go back to its accidental beginnings. This wasn't some grand vision to revolutionize commerce. No, it was all about snowboards.
So how in the world does a snowboard shop end up changing everything? It's a great question, right? And the answer is actually really simple. It comes down to one word: frustration. Seriously. The founders didn't set out to change the internet. They just wanted to sell some gear.
You have to remember, back in 2004, trying to build an online store was an absolute nightmare. The tools were just awful, clunky, super rigid, and crazy expensive. So one of the founders, this programmer named Tobias Lütke, he just got so fed up that he said, you know what, I'll build it myself. And that's exactly what he did, right from scratch, just for their little snowboard shop, Snowdevil.
And this is where things get really interesting. It only took them about 2 years to have this aha moment. They realized the software they built was way, way more valuable than the snowboards they were actually selling. And then in 2009, they make an absolute genius move. They launch an app store. This one decision right here changed everything. It took Shopify from just being a tool to being a whole platform, an entire ecosystem where other people could build on top of their foundation.
And that app store, man, that was the spark that lit the fuse for the 2010s. We're talking about a decade of just explosive rocket ship growth. Shopify went from this little niche tool to a total Wall Street darling.
It all kicked off with what by today's standards is a pretty modest first round of funding, $7 million. But back in 2010, that was a huge signal. It meant investors were finally seeing the massive potential in giving small businesses the tools to fight back online.
Okay, now fast forward just 3 years. That $7 million? It exploded. We're talking $100 million. This wasn't about potential anymore. This was proof. Shopify was scaling like crazy, and now all the big money was paying very close attention.
And then, of course, comes the IPO. In 2015, Shopify hits the public markets, and that really cements their status as a major tech player. But believe it or not, the biggest stamp of approval was still on its way.
And here it is. This is just, wow. Amazon, the 800-pound gorilla of e-commerce, basically threw in the towel on this part of the market. They shut down their own competing service, and then, get this, they officially told everyone to go use Shopify instead. I mean, can you even imagine a bigger endorsement? It's just incredible.
But Shopify wasn't done evolving, not by a long shot. They launched something called Shopify Capital, and this was a huge shift. They went from just being a software company to being a partner in their customers' growth. Think about it. They started lending money directly to their own merchants. This created this brilliant feedback loop. The more their merchants grew, the more Shopify grew. It's genius.
So all that history brings us right up to today. And what Shopify is now? Well, it's so much more than just a tool to build a website. It's this massive, sprawling ecosystem. You can almost think of it as the central nervous system for all of modern commerce.
And the sheer range of who uses it is just staggering. I mean, you've got solo entrepreneurs making handmade goods in their kitchen, you've got global mega brands like Gymshark, and then you've got iconic corporations like Mattel. And the craziest part? They're all running on the same core platform.
So you gotta be asking, how is that even possible? Well, it all goes back to that brilliant decision they made in 2009, the App Store. That is Shopify's real secret weapon. With more than 10,000 apps available, a merchant can customize their store to do basically anything they can dream up.
And these apps cover, well, everything. You need advanced email marketing? Yep, there's an app for that. Customer reviews, loyalty programs, super deep analytics, it's all there in the App Store. And that's the beauty of their strategy. It lets Shopify itself stay pretty lean and focused, while this huge community of partners is the one driving all the innovation.
Okay, but it hasn't all been smooth sailing. As the saying goes, with great power comes great, well, in this case, great complexity. The 2020s have been a really turbulent period for Shopify. You had the insane pandemic boom, then some really painful corrections, and some massive changes in strategy.
This quote from the CEO, Tobias Lutke, is just so revealing. He's basically saying, "We bet big that the pandemic e-commerce boom was the new normal." They thought the world had permanently leaped forward 5 or 10 years, so they hired like crazy for that future, a future that didn't quite show up. And that led to a really tough course correction, including significant layoffs in 2022. And that ambition didn't stop there. For a while, Shopify decided to go head-to-head with Amazon on their home turf, logistics. They bought robotics companies, they started building this huge fulfillment network. It was a super bold and super expensive gamble. But then, in 2023, in this really stunning reversal, they sold the whole thing off. They decided to become a partner instead of a competitor. And that says a lot about their culture. They're willing to admit when a bet doesn't pay off and pivot fast.
And then you have the controversies. As Shopify got bigger and bigger, the spotlight on them got a lot brighter. People started asking questions about who exactly is allowed to use their platform. They've faced a ton of criticism for hosting stores tied to really controversial groups and people. For their part, Shopify has consistently pointed back to their official acceptable use policy and to principles of free speech, basically saying that as long as you don't violate those terms, you can use the platform. It's a stance that is, to say the least, still being very hotly debated.
Which really brings us to the heart of the matter. It's the core question that not just Shopify, but honestly, our whole digital world is wrestling with right now. What exactly is a platform supposed to be?
I mean, think about this number. When you're processing almost $300 billion in transactions every year, you're not just a piece of software anymore. You are a fundamental part of the global economic infrastructure. And that means the decisions you make carry an enormous amount of weight.
So what is that responsibility? Should a platform just be a neutral utility? Kind of like the phone company, just providing the pipes for everyone, no matter what they say or sell? Or does it have a bigger, moral responsibility to police the commerce that it makes possible? This is the fundamental tension, the big dilemma that really defines Shopify's place in the world today.
And that leaves us with this huge, critical question for our time. As these massive platforms like Shopify become just as essential as, say, the power grid, who gets to write the rules? Should it be the company itself? Should it be the users? Or should government step in? The answer to that question, well, it's not just going to shape the future of Shopify, it's going to shape the very nature of commerce on the internet.